It's the time of year when we need to start really thinking about intentionally practicing and giving our students opportunities to practice for the TELPAS writing sample collection that we will be doing starting in February. So I've compiled a few documents to help get you going with that, to help you track your progress and your students' progress, and for those of you who are new to TELPAS, to give you an overview of the system. So just really briefly, I want to go over the documents that I'm giving you so that you know what they are and so you can use them to the fullest potential. So the first thing that I've given you is the 2012-13 TELPAS Writing Sample preparation. This is just the basic information about what needs to be in your collection of writing. And so from starting on February 20th, you will be collecting writing samples to turn in for your TELPAS for each of your students who are in the ESL or bilingual program. And that collection here is highlighted. It needs to include at least 5 writing samples and at least 1 narrative writing sample about a past event and at least 2 academic writing samples from math, science, or social studies. And the rest of this document basically gives you all the different types and some ideas about different prompts that you could give to your students. So it goes on for several pages talking about each type of writing that could be included, and then it reminds you that the narrative writing about a past event is a must. You have to have 1 of those. And for type 6, the expository procedural writing from science, math, or social studies, that is the type that you need to have at least 2 different samples from that. So this document just reminds you, if you've done this before, or tells you if this is your first time, what kinds of samples are going to be expected, what to look for. Here is a page of tips for collecting your writing samples and what not to include in your writing samples. And then there's also a page of your verification checklist. This is not due until April 11th, but the reason I'm giving it to you now is so you can start thinking about it ahead of time from now until February, preparing your students, making sure that you've tried at least several writing samples from each of the different types. And then also, once we hit February 20th, you can start tracking your progress of how many samples you've included and what else needs to be done. So we have up here from now to February 20th, we're practicing, and then from February 20th to April 11th, we're collecting those samples, and then this checklist is due on April 11th. And included in this checklist, it lets you know how many writing samples you need, what kinds of samples, and it reminds you of some of the do's and don'ts. And then this is a document that I created for you that I hope will help you as you're planning for these samples. So this is something that you're going to be using. It's hard to tell in this light, but it's kind of a salmon colored. You're going to be using this from now until February 20th. So this is your sheet to track your students' progress of which writing samples they've had exposure to and remind you, oh, we haven't done this one yet, we should really, intentionally work in a couple of these in the next 6 to 8 weeks so that when February 20th rolls around, it will be, they'll be prepared. So these I just copied directly from the list that they gave you, but I put it all in one sheet so that you can see the type of writing, the different kinds of prompts that you have, and then over here it gives you a place to mark down when you practice that writing, when your students have had exposure to that writing, so you can look down and say, okay, we've done a lot of narratives, but we haven't really done a lot of examples of expository from science, so that's where I want to focus for the next couple of weeks. So hopefully this will be a good tool for you to keep track of your writing and to be able to see where your focus needs to be so that your students are prepared for these writing samples. Also right here, I just, for further emphasis, put at least 1 sample from number 3 is required and at least 2 samples from type 6 are required. So make sure that you are definitely focusing on those 2, and then the rest you can pull from whatever type of writing, whatever genre you choose that really reflects your students' strengths and abilities. So please use this sheet. If you have any questions about it, let me know. But this is just in order to give you plenty of time before February and especially before April so that we're not down to the wire at the end of March saying, oh no, I need to get my students to do 3 more samples, and we don't want them turning in samples of a kind of writing, a type of writing that they haven't had a lot of exposure to in the past. So this is just a tool for you. I hope it's helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions.